Fantastic. Hello and welcome to Spitfire. This is season 2, episode 25. Of course, my name is Brice, and I'll be bringing all the topics and moving the conversation through. Of course, joining me as always, Chris Tunn, chipping in whenever he feels like it and making sure the production is okay. But, not my PC, that's no face. But more important, our guest for this week, one of the most famous faces in Call of Duty history and the scene in total. Of course, Hector Rodriguez, better known as Hex. Hex, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excellent. I am currently tweeting out the stream on my... Anyway, I'm excellent, Brice. Thank you for the invite.
No problem, mate. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, of course. I wanted to be on last week, but what happens, how things happen, and I thought it was at 8 o'clock my time. So
I think I worked out that's like 4 a.m.
yeah.
Which we would move it if needed to. But here's the first thing I kind of want to talk into, because this only happened recently, and I want to congratulate you again on your Lifetime Achievement Award. Although you like to refer to it as the Halftime Award.
Halftime Achievement Award. That's correct. I look. I will accept any award. Okay, as long as it's cool, I'm accepting it. Okay, I'm not. I don't. People like to get what they deserve. I like to get what I also don't deserve to get, So when they said that, I was like, Lifetime. I'm like, already? I'm 39 and a half, So I was obviously super honored and humbled, obviously sitting up there with the people that I was sitting with, with DJ Wheat, with Sir Scoots, and then obviously an incredible person and mentor of mine, Sundance. I was like, all right, well, yeah, I'm here. I accept it. Thank you. But I was totally like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think it was very well deserved. I think there was a lot of votes in the panel on the backside. They were like, yeah, obviously we have all the short lists, and it gets kind of gone through like 1,000 times. And Lifetime Achievement Award was something that a lot of people were very focused on this year, being something new, and they wanted to try to get it right and such. And for me, I think it's important. I think there are people in here who, especially things like even like DJ Wheat, right? For the new people that are coming into esports, maybe not as aware of his body of work, right? But these people deserve to be recognized for what is essentially now esports moving into its, I want to say, corporate age. It's becoming more and more a mainstream business down the line. And speaking of that, Hex, how have you found that kind of transition? Because you've been around for a very long time, and you're very much from the grassroots itself. How have you kind of found the transition coming into this new era of esports?
It's difficult. Once you start getting into the sort of more structured world that we live in esports, you sort of lose that shoot from the hip sort of opportunities that you do. A lot of the content that we've always created, we do at the very last minute, right? We wait until the very last minute to come up with the dopest idea. So we'll have an idea of what it is that we want to do, and then at the very end, if we come up with Hitch came up with something, or Big Time or Embos or anybody came up with a different idea, we would immediately drop the bad one and go into a plan. No plan, we would go into the dope idea that came out afterwards. That's been tough for me, right? Having to plan stuff out is just super, super tough on the brain for me. I like to do things spur of the moment. I like to do things like when I feel inspired and that to me has been a little bit of a small adjustment that I have to acclimate myself with.
I suppose it's also come with a lot of new faces into esports, right? Because it's something that we've talked about before, is you're kind of an evangelist of esports, and you do things in a very much Hex way. Like, how to focus on the community, on your content. You have this very, your entire career, you've kind of emphasized certain aspects of esports you think are very, very important. How's it been dealing with people who come in with a different viewpoint that may not necessarily be correct? Because there are, these marketing guys, and there's all these new faces kind of sticking their heads in esports nowadays.
Well, it's up to us, right? It's up to us, the endemic esports people, to usher them into this thing. And the second that you allow that sort of personality to come in, it's sort of like, and if you partner with them, you're sort of vouching for them, right? You're sort of saying, hey, I vetted these people. And for the most part, when you do, you try to do the best job possible. But sometimes just the weirdest thing happens and some things don't go the right way. But ultimately, it's up to us. It's up to us to teach, educate, and more importantly, sort of explain the way that the culture works around here. Because you can come in and treat it like a business, like right off the rip, and it may be successful, it may win, it may lose, but at the end of the day, like if you try to sort of apply your knowledge from whatever field you're coming into and sort of try to fit whatever you bring to the table into the esports realm, that's the best case of approach. Even when you know that there is a better way to do things that you have done in the past in a different field, you have to make it applicable to esports, because there will slip. There will be that one little thing that goes wrong that completely messes the entire thing. Your entire goodwill that you're bringing to the space may just go out the window because you forgot to do this one esport thing. And that's obviously always ends up being like cultural within the community.
Yeah, because I find it very interesting, this, what I like to call the next wave of esports people. And I've had some negative encounters in my time, people who quite literally think they know more than they do know, or decided that they. And here's the thing, right? Because there's this old age business saying you should always challenge what's been done before to see if you could do something better and different, right? It's one of those things like, oh, just because people have been doing it the same way forever, maybe do it different. But I've seen maybe too many of that kind of people come into esports and believe they can do it different and better. And that's just at my level. I can only imagine what kind of high level meetings you've had. Any kind of like negative encounters you've really had in that space?
Yeah, a whole bunch of them. Yeah, a bunch. But again, it was the approach. It was the approach from both sides that could have been a little bit better. And I take part of the blame. I'm really good at taking a shortcut to wherever it is that we need to know. I like to work smarter, not harder, and I need to get there as soon as possible before somebody else gets there. And that is difficult to explain to somebody who's used to, let's plan it out, let's say who's playing what role, and then let's get there eventually. And I'm just like, not that. So I've had negative encounters, but it's mostly just disagreements on strategy more than anything else. And again, when you encounter people who have been extremely successful in other fields, it's sort of difficult to tell them, say, hey, I get that it worked over there, but it may not work here. And when there's a may not work here in the air, you have to literally stop everything that you're doing and really think about whether or not you want to proceed with whatever plan is out there. I don't know why I'm doing this too much. So, and for me, that's been like the main sort of factor in every single sort of negative encounter that I've had in esports with external forces.
I think that's fair enough. I think, all right, let me change the topic here for just a second, Hex, because there is obviously I was going to say an elephant in the room, but it's more like a green wall in the room. Obviously, you have moved on from your OpTic time, something that you built from the ground up. It's been very well documented, your feelings on it. But I think one thing that people maybe I kind of want to at least ask you for it is about, did you expect the reaction of the OpTic fans for you over the brand as much as it has happened?
Yeah, of course. Of course, we built this thing sort of together, and it wasn't any. It was some of it was about the brand, about the OG. Some of it was about that, but it was more about the relationship that we've developed throughout the years. That sort of, I don't want to say take for granted, because I never would, but I knew that they were gonna have like our back no matter what we did. No matter where Big Timer went, no matter where I went, no matter where Hitch went. Like I knew that we were gonna have our friends come with us. So. Was I surprised at the sort of reaction that the people had? No, absolutely not. Like I knew that they were gonna, people, circumstances change in everyday life and scenarios every single day. But the thing that doesn't is the connection that you develop with somebody, a friendship that you develop with somebody, a relation that you develop with somebody. And in order for that to sort of have any negative effect or negative impact, it literally needs to be a person doing something bad to another person, and then that's affected. But if external things happen, that shit happens every single day.
Yeah, I get that. I think the every single time an OpTic member would tweet out they were obviously leaving OpTic, there would always be an outpouring of support from the community every single time. Like even Teep, I think he announced it yesterday. You know, and that was it was clearly written on the wall. Everybody knew it was coming, and you know, the OpTic of that era has been dead for a little while. But it does surprise me just how much that brand has flipped. In essence, like I spoke about it on Twitter a little while ago. You know, you go on the OpTic subreddit, which I've been on occasionally. It's like a ghost town. It's genuinely a ghost town. I couldn't believe that everybody just went, nope, that's it, I'm done. And I don't think I've ever seen that happen to a brand before. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that genuinely happen, where pretty much the entire fan base just turned it off like a light switch. You know, 3 million or 2.4 million or whatever it was on the Twitter just stopped caring. Which for me is it's got to say something about you know, your potential to build a brand and something you're potentially looking to take in a Huntsman.
And energy. I mean, energy as a whole is. Look, it I don't know why it came as a surprise to anybody. Like we not only did we warn people what was going to happen, how it was going to happen, step by step, what would eventually happen. It was a surprise to everybody besides, I guess, Hitch, Big Timer, you know, Seth, and everybody that was involved in. You know, everybody knew what was going to happen, how it was going to happen, in what steps, like certain things were going to fall, because it's a domino effect that happens when something like that occurs. And you know, it was I don't know, it was I don't know, mind blowing to me why we weren't believed, you know, in a sense that was, we've seen it happen last year. And we know what this looks like if it goes down this route.
And I think like it was the thing that there was nobody like left of the core, was there? I mean, if Seth had ended up staying on that team or something like that, which it was never really going to happen, but if that had happened, then there may have been a bit of a split. I mean, we queried it on here. We were like, well, yeah, Hex will take the majority, but then we'll Scump keep like retain. I mean, it doesn't exclusively mean that you know have to support one team and one team only. I think there would have been support from either side, but there was nothing left of the. That is literally OpTic in name, and that is it. That is it. Yeah,
you know what? Obviously, the only time that I've had that sort of disagreement with a friend of mine or player, like I don't like to call them players of mine because they're more than that. They're friends. Was with Nashat during that one small period when we didn't talk, and it was just misunderstanding. But that was the only time that had ever happened. I knew that wasn't going to happen with Seth. I knew that wasn't going to happen with anybody else. It wouldn't have. I mean, I just know that wouldn't have happened. You know, we literally ride together. We're more than a team. We've always been more than just a team, right? It used to be our tagline in 2008 and 9 on our YouTube channel, more than just a team, because we will forever and always, and if I can have any say in it, we will forever and always see this thing as a group of friends coming together to create content for people to enjoy. That's it, right? Everything else just comes because it comes with this many eyeballs on something. The business is bound to be, you know, it's always gonna be there. So as long as we continue to keep that mentality. I mean, if you look at FaZe, for example, it's the same 5 dudes that have always been there. They are like the marquee sort of personalities in FaZe that keep that show running, and not just running, like, you know, full blown just sprinting, right? That brand's taken off like insane, right? If you look at the culture that Nate's creating over there at 100 Thieves, like, you see what being friends with somebody and loving what you do means to a business, right? You have smart business people behind Nate Shot with Nate Shot's sort of mentality, creativity, and that goes somewhere, because you're like, okay, go do your Nate Shot stuff, right? Go do your bank stuff, go do your temper stuff, go do, you know, your rain, your apex, you know, go do your stuff. We'll handle the back end, and we'll figure. And that's how it should always be. You know, if business people who are coming into the space said, okay, we're gonna handle all the taxes and all the meetings and all the deliverables and all this, and we're gonna tell you what we need, and then you go do it. We're not telling you how. We're just gonna tell you when we need it, and then you go off and do your own thing. It's success. Like, don't complicate things. Don't fix what's not broken. Offer advice, but don't expect it to be followed, because sometimes people are just gonna be too nice and not say that shit wouldn't work here in esports. So
it's interesting, that tactic, right? Because obviously it works very well for you. This kind of friendship community sort of team thing you have, but I mean, I know some people it doesn't. Like I've done that sort of thing before. Do you ever have the difficulty in that blurred line of business and friendship, essentially mixing business with pleasure? And how, because a lot of people that, like I said before, I've done this. It's very, very difficult when it comes down to we need this done. This person isn't cooperative, or they're taking it too light, or it's too lax. Like, how do you approach that side of it? Because that's where a lot of people fall down. Is once you get too chummy with somebody, it can be hard to cut past that and get business done.
Yeah, but that same sort of laid back, chill, no rush, it'll get done when it gets done, is what speaks to that person's personality to bring. It's called YouTube for a reason. It's you. It's yours.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be who you are on YouTube. I mean, obviously there's the couple of people on there who never, or who fake who they are just for the cameras. And I'm not texting. I'm trying to turn it's 73 here. Jesus, sorry. I'll be with you in 2 seconds. I'm baking. Okay. So one more time. Okay. Sorry. So it's train of thought. I'm having a fever over here. What were we talking about?
We're talking about the business and the friendship side of things.
Sorry. Yes. So the business and the friendship sort of thing is always going to get complicated when, you know, business gets in the way. But if you never push somebody to change what made their YouTube is going to be, you're going to be on good terms, right? You never want to disrupt the relationship that somebody has built over 10 years, over 5 years, over 3 years, over a week, okay, on a YouTube channel. If you go to a YouTube channel, if you created a YouTube channel, Tunn, where all you upload is FIFA for about a year, and then all of a sudden you give somebody a cooking show, some people are going to like it. Majority are going to like it. But some are going to be like, yo, you know, this is weird. But if you give them a warning and say, hey, guys, you know, I love cooking. I was cooking. As you're making your videos and you're explaining what it is that you do outside of FIFA, then you sort of develop this thing or a preparation to get them to do that. But you're doing it the way that you do it. You're communicating with them the way that you've always communicated with them, right? There's no, hey, I need you to go deliver this message on this thing. Like that'll never, ever, ever work. So
I wonder if AJL will let me do that. Cooking show.
I'm curious about that side on the YouTube stuff, but also how does it with the esports side of it? Because obviously there is, I mean, OpTic. You famously said OpTic didn't need a championship.
YouTube content.
Yeah, OpTic said. I think you once said about OpTic, you never needed OpTic to win a championship, but you knew you could do the most with it when they did. Mm-hmm. With the Huntsman, do you feel any of that kind of metric-driven stuff? Like you need the results to come on board, and is that like reflective in the atmosphere in there, or is it more you put them back in as a community stuff? Because, like I said, there are new players. You know, you may have not have interacted with a lot before. You know, where do you draw the line in terms of right? Well, we need to sort this out, or somebody needs to be dropped in a business sense, because that can never be easy.
Well, listen, business sense. If you're talking business, making money, you're gonna stick with the Nate shot, okay? If Nate shot would have never retired, he'd still be playing with me, right? I would have never dropped him, no matter what. I would have never dropped him, because we are, if you're talking business, franchises are in the business of selling tickets, jerseys, and experiences, okay? A championship team with people you don't know is not going to sell tickets, it's not going to sell jerseys, and the experience is not going to be there because nobody bought the tickets. So for me, from a business standpoint, I look at it logically. What has the most eyeballs? What has the most experiential potential for people to enjoy themselves? That's what I look at. So from a business standpoint, you're never going to pick the better player who has 10 followers over the good enough player that has 2 million followers. Ever. Okay? In 10 years, when the scene is, in 5 to 10 years, when the scene is this is eSports, this is competition, this is entertaining, no matter who's playing, sure. Right now, though, in this sort of stage of infancy that is eSports, no, we got to build an audience, and you don't build audiences just by winning championships. I always say it, and I'll say it again, and people hate it, especially pro players who all they do is win. Every time I always say this, it rubs people the wrong way, and that's fine. And I understand why it would, right? maybe I'm the wrong one, and maybe I'm putting so much effort and sort of weight into content creation because that's what we're good at and that's what got us to where we're at. But fact of the matter is, if a tree falls in the middle of the forest and nobody's around to hear you win a championship, did you win a championship?
Yeah, I can see that side of it. Here's the twist on it though, Hex. Is now you've moved into the Chicago Huntsman, and we're going to talk about them a little bit more coming up. And there is something this year called essentially a salary cap, but it's a soft salary cap. It's the luxury tax. How is dealing with that? Because I'm sure you've never really had to worry too much about this artificial ceiling of what players can I get, how much are they worth brand wise, how good are they, how do they fit with my ethos, and also can I pay all of these without blowing out and going into the luxury tax? Like that's an extra variable that you've not really had before.
Yeah.
How's that affected your decisions over at Chicago?
I can't. I will never be able to answer that question because I have a following, right? I have a community. I have Scumpy, who is like lives down the street, my little bro, who also has a following. You know, it just goes down the line on what it is that you're able to provide from an entertainment standpoint. Having that sort of trust sort of put me in an advantageous position to build something that's there. But I've said it. I don't remember what podcast I said or how long ago I said it. But if I'm coming into the league, you better believe that if the Scumpies, the Claysters, the Crim Sixes, you name them, right? All the popular personalities are taken. I'm literally going into Halo, Rainbow Six. I'm going into all these other communities and trying to convince by paying people to come play for my team. If I was any league, if I was any team out there, and I know that people are going to hate that because you got to take care of your own, and pro players who have been here for 10 years should get preferential treatment. Sure, maybe. I can find both sides of that. But from a business standpoint, you know what I'm doing? I'm going to create a storyline for myself. I'm going to go and pick up the Tox guys right now to be my players. And will they come super hot out of the gates? No. But it doesn't matter because it's franchised, right? It doesn't matter because it's franchised. They're guaranteed to play, and they're guaranteed a good salary and all the benefits that come with it. Right. But what you're doing for your own organization is you're creating a timeline of all right, this is what this guy did to differentiate himself from somebody else. Okay. These guys are super popular on the other spectrum of video games. They may be coming from Halo. They may be coming from wherever. It doesn't matter. I've seen time and time again players from Call of Duty, players from Halo be incredible or good enough to get to a certain level in ranked in CSGO. That's not just something that you practice for. You're just naturally God-given natural talent of being able to point and flick, right? To have good hand-eye coordination, good reaction time, understanding of the game in a different way that we may not necessarily understand. But that's what I would do, because now every single time, guess what? Guess what you're going to be talking about when you're on stage, when you're commentating something. This is the Halo team. I'm super excited to see how they're going to fare against that. Whether they win or lose, you're talking about them because they're coming from a different, sort of place. Think about when Crim Six moved from Halo to Call of Duty. Think about when Formal moved from Halo to Call of Duty. Maven couldn't get Formal's name out of his mouth.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
why? Yeah. Because you want to see how he's going to perform against professionals in a field that he's never played on. But people are talking about it. And if he does good, which he ended up doing, and Formal ain't the only one out there. You know what I'm saying? Like Formal's obviously a god was a god at Halo, is a god at Call of Duty, but there are other people who are just as good, some better, some a little bit not as good, but they're still going to be better than, I don't know, call it 50% of the pros out there, just because of their natural God-given talent to be good at hand-eye coordination. So from a business perspective, I go where the eyeballs are going to be. I'm going to go where I am going to offer some form of entertainment to somebody who's going to be interested in watching my thing.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, and you can certainly see it in your team, right? Like there's a lot of hype over the Huntsman at the moment. Speaking of which, now if I remember correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe I saw on a podcast the other day about Chicago that you were also looking at Las Vegas. And I got a question earlier from one of the people on the Discord, said, was there anywhere else you were looking at? And they said, fingers crossed, London. Any other cities you were kind of thinking about?
Yeah, London for me is just too far. Too far.
Don't we know
Now,
it?
again, from a business perspective, I thought that Vegas was going to be the safer bet, right? Well, not safer bet necessarily, but from a business perspective, that's where the games are played there. From a business perspective, you have such an opportunity to do things because moms and dads are going to take their kids there and they're going to go play roulette or whatever it is that they play where their kid is dropped off at the game to see Scumpy and Formal T2P on everybody else. So that to me was like an easier sort of sell for the parents to bring bring their kids in. So from a business perspective, that's where I would have gone. But Chicago, on the Chicago thing, like people are like, oh, so where's your second? Something like 2 kids were like, oh, so we're your second choice? Obviously not. I mean, yes, you were, but Chicago to me is like, I grew up there, so it's not. I never saw it as like a betrayal of not picking Chicago first or anything. Besides, it's the internet.
Yeah.
Okay, like we're everywhere, not just Chicago.
Here's another question, and it's something because I don't know how well documented it is. Some people may know. I think your fans probably do know. You're a Hammers fan, right? West Ham. You've been over to see them in the UK, I believe, and people are drawing a comparison between the Huntsman logo and the West Ham logo. I have to ask you this: was there any inspiration drawn from West Ham due to your own personal? Oh,
He's going to get the flag.
is he going to get the flag? He has. He has going to get the flag.
There it is. I can. I mean, it's a
no. There wasn't. No. I don't think I'll ever be able to. I'll have to check with Andy, who is way smarter than me and reads way more in detail in contracts than me. But when I can't go into it. I can't go into it because of as a business, right? You have to be creative in the ways that you make money, right? So that I mean, it truthfully it didn't have anything to do with it. I just wanted to find something that somebody could. If I tell a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old to draw the Huntsman, they're gonna draw an X, and it's gonna be simple, and then they're gonna draw something there. And when you don't have to explain it to somebody, it's easy. It's easy to sort of like it. Thankfully, I was able to create the logo from the beginning and tell exactly what I wanted it to be, how I wanted it to look. If it would have ended up in Vegas, it would have been something else. It wouldn't have been that. It would have been something else.
Well, there was some negative feedback towards it, but I think that was mainly to do with the fact that people expect so much from you. That people always expect absolute. And if anything, I actually think the logo has grown on me over time. The more I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I can see, the design behind it and everything. And obviously it's never easy to come up with a brand new logo out of the gate. It's about the brand that builds around the logo. Then it becomes iconic. No brand ever launched with an iconic logo. They become iconic with work over time. The other kind of half of that is somebody saying about the fans. The fans can be called the Axes. The same way that West Ham's are called the Irons. I don't know if you were ever pushing in that direction.
We don't know. we're the green wall. I mean, that's not something that you'd like drop just because of whatever happened. It's something bigger. Will it be called that? I don't think so. But I don't know. We look at the end of the day, and I keep on saying this. Like some people are gonna talk about it. Some people are gonna like it. Some people are not gonna like it. It's gonna be underwhelming to some people, and it's gonna be like, okay, let's get going. No logo out there, like you just said, has become what it be. I mean, we all fell in love with a 2-letter sort of symbol of 2 letters on top of each other, right? Like it was nothing at one point. It was nothing. In fact, way back when, and I see Nameless is in the chat. Think about how many times people like Nameless, people like Pac-Man, people like Joe the Man, Poor Minorities. I mean, you name all these Call of Duty 2 legends. Not to forget about the NM boys from the UK. But if you think about it, like some of those people were like, no, we're not going to be on OpTic. When they were trying to be recruited to be on OpTic, like they just said no. And it wasn't until we started making videos that it became something. It wasn't until we became something as people, as personalities. When my voice was on top 5 kill cams of the week, and it's got as many views as it did, and my voice got recognized before my face got recognized, That felt good, right? And it was because of that. And because of that, we fed into this sort of logo. We kept feeding into this logo to be, we were pumping air into it every single time we uploaded a video. Every single time something cool happened. Every single time somebody hit a nice shot. It was air being pumped into this thing. Little by little, it starts to levitate. Little by little, it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger until it just floated away, right? And that's the same thing that's happening right here. Bottom line is this. I have 2 dope-ass logos up in them rafters.
Yeah, I can see that. And you're talking about the building the brand, right? I even know that Huntsman put out a video literally 10, 15 minutes ago about meeting Scump, and that's actually some of the first content we're seeing out of these new franchise teams. Now, without calling anyone out, how do you think the whole franchising situation has gone? And because essentially you're up against 11 other teams with 11 other infrastructures, and it's almost a clean slate, except for a few legacy teams going across.
Yeah.
How do you feel like your competition at the moment?
In terms of what?
In terms of the brand, in terms of the brand they're building, the teams they're building, the way they're conducting themselves. Because obviously you keep an eye on them as a course. You keep an eye on how they're going. But I don't think anybody's asking you what you thought of the other 11 people stepping up to the plate.
Oh man, I see everything that everybody's doing, but I got to concentrate on what I'm doing. I got to concentrate on what this looks like 3 years from now. And if I sit around and see, I'm like, oh, they could do. I'd gladly help. I reached out to, I'm not gonna say who, but I reached out to somebody who I know at a certain team, and I'm like, yo, if you need any help with this one thing, and it wasn't Midnight. Midnight obviously has me on speed dial, and I always pick up. That's my little sis, obviously. But it was somebody else, and I'm like, yo, it'd be better if you sort of do this instead, because now, unlike any other time that I've been in esports, sort of our wagons are all hitched together, and we're only going to be as strong as our weakest link. So we have to sort of help that. And I'm okay with that now. Now that we're all together trying to build something bigger, then I'm okay with not being as competitive as I have in the past, where, I try to literally go for the throat and be better than somebody else and not give anybody any help. So some help I will, not all of it.
I think that's fair. Referencing last week, because I don't know if you probably caught up with, you're a very busy man. So we had a 2 hour and 14-minute conversation last week about franchising and Call of Duty's move into franchising and the great change it makes. And we had 2 very different viewpoints on Richard Lewis and Marty from Toronto. And let's put it this way: they were basically as far removed from the same viewpoint as you could possibly be, because one was very much a pessimist about it, and that was Rich, and Marty was very much an optimist about it. How do you think franchising is going to go in the next 5 years? And I know that obviously there has to be some temper to this because you are involved. I just wanted to get your kind of viewpoint on it.
Look, the second that you put yourself in an esports box, you're at the mercy of being an esports team and being at the mercy of winning or losing. When you see yourself as a media company, is alongside an esports team, alongside something else, then you're sort of divesting your not interests. You're sort of putting your eggs in different baskets, right? So you don't have that single point of failure that can get you in trouble, right? I think we beat that problem like in 2010 when we started uploading videos. I think we beat that problem when we considered ourselves a YouTube team first that decided to go and compete in Call of Duty again, right? So I think we sort of beat that problem way back when. And if we continue to sort of go in that trajectory with that mentality, I think that we're going to be just fine, because, it's really cool to one day have the Dallas Cowboys of esports. But it's also super, super, super cool to own the Dallas Cowboys of esports and also own the HBO of esports. That's where I'm going.
Okay.
And people can think that way if they want, and if they want to continue to concentrate on wins and losses, and that's also cool. But we have the opportunity to shape, reshape, invent, reinvent anything that we want with this new thing. Why follow in the footsteps of the old?
Yeah, I think with you going NRG, I suppose you've got like you don't necessarily have to follow the same sort of blueprint, even though obviously it was successful at OpTic. You have like your own now, like new sandbox, so to speak. You can do with what you please with that. So I think especially when people look at the team though, you're talking about winning and losses. I think a lot of people look at that team on paper and sort of say, well, I think you should be okay. Really, I think even just on paper, when I seen that team announced, I was like, wow. I mean, you got a hellishly good lineup, hellishly good.
Oh yeah. But we can also cover it. We can also put it in front of people, so they too can take enjoyment in the wins. They too can be proud of the team that is there. But it doesn't have to always be that way. Again, you're only. We're not there yet, unfortunately. I hope that one day we are in an ecosystem where wins and losses matter and people are there to see the competition on their favorite team beating another team. But we're not there yet. And we won't be there for a minute. Pardon the dogs in the background. I don't know if they're too loud.
No, that's fine. It's fine. Let's change kind of topics again here, away from the Huntsman for just a second, because I want to delve into a kind of a more personal history with you. You had a lot of I feel like a lot of your relationships with players and staff over the years have been more intense than some people, because obviously it transcends a business relationship. But what has happened, or if you could tell us any stories of when those relationships are kind of broken down? Big arguments are obviously going to happen in that kind of tight-knit environment. Has there ever been a time when you kind of just like lost it with a player and just been like, I can't even talk to them on a realistic level anymore? Because when you are dealing with young men in that environment, tempers are sure to flare.
Yeah, no. Pardon the dogs if you can hear them. Let me know if you can. I'll turn on the noise gate. But no, I've always been really good at keeping it just straight up with people. And I owe it to the fact that I've always been a big brother. I've always been a big cousin. I know what it's like. And I've also been, I had just been a teenager. I had just been a 20-year-old. You know what I'm saying? So it is when you start to not sort of keep everybody in the loop that you develop this sort of distance between your players, right? And to be honest, man, like I never thought of my guys as my players, right? It was always like people that I create content with. So it is the second that you start sort of separating them from what's going on, and there was times where I would go into Big Timer's office, in 2016, I would go into Big Timer's room and I would tell him straight up, I'm like, listen, if this sponsor doesn't pay us by this time, we go in the red. And then this player doesn't get paid, this player doesn't get paid, and then this gets out and says that Hector and OpTic don't pay people, then a negative effect starts to happen. Because if it's happening to OpTic, one of the biggest brands in esports, then what does what does it really look like? And I sort of confided in all of my team. I never made a decision without getting everybody together and say, we're going into Counter-Strike. What do you guys think? You know what I'm saying? It's that sort of inclusion that you have to have with your people, so as to not create this distance, right? And it's good to sort of be vulnerable in situations like that, because if not, you're gonna go fucking nuts. You're literally gonna go crazy.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that as one of those things. Like I said, it was just, for me, I was always very curious about the when you have that kind of team house. And obviously, you live separate from them, but I suppose it's some point of the perspective of just watching videos from the OpTic Gaming, and I'm sure many people in the chat have, and I know I have, of seeing this house environment with all these guys in here, and what I like to call the jokey arguments that do have a grain of truth behind them. Arguments over groceries or over a messy kitchen or anything that on the outside are light-hearted, but may have a little bit more depth behind them that we don't get to see.
Yeah. Well, no, it is. I mean, obviously, I think that was like the only thing that we never got along with was that not having a clean kitchen. Mike Flamesword was always super about it. I mean, you could tell by walking into a person's room to see what like Mike's room was always on point, made his bed when he got out. Obviously, his discipline is fucking incredible. But you would go into other people's and you'd be like, you could just tell, it's like, it's not my thing. The other thing you have to take into account is that some of these young men lived with their moms up until the point to where they never had to, live with them anymore, and everything was done for them. So, grain of salt, no grain of salt. Like at times, you have to deal with the messiness because they were never taught otherwise. And I'm not blaming the moms. I'm just saying.
No, I get it. I very much get it. I'm actually going to borrow a question here from Nameless because he put something in the chat I think is very curious, and it is something that's a hot topic right now, Hex. And I'd like to you to weigh on it. As you're heavily involved with the franchise side of the CDL and Call of Duty now, there has been this talk about developer-player relations, and obviously we're at the mercy of a new game every year, and there's Activision, and then there's all the developers, and it's so many parties getting involved.
Yeah.
What would you like to see of like the relationships between those two? How does it improve? How does it get better? What do you think of the relationships at the moment? Because it does seem to be some breakdown in communication.
Oh yeah, massive. The thing is this, obviously the players want an open line of communication with the developers. The developers also want that, right? But then there's this like massive layer, and I'm talking about let's put it into a building perspective. Okay, on ground one, on the main floor in the lobby, you have players and developers wanting to have a conversation, and both agree. They come to an agreement and say, "You're right," right? Then they have to go to the second floor and ask the lawyers there, and then they have to go. Those lawyers have to go to the third floor for those lawyers, and then finally the bosses. And then the bosses have to look at the shareholders and be like, "What's going to make this game more money, right? How is this business going to continue to thrive in order to have these sort of opportunities that we're giving these players, right? Like in no other time in history has this level of sort of opportunity has happened for players to make money off of playing video games, right? Nowhere. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, imagine the first time people were like, "Hey, I could get paid for fucking singing. It's crazy. I love singing. It's just me sitting around and singing. I get paid for it." So it's not that. The other thing is the way that the players tell the developers thing, like on social media, complaining and then getting all the masses to sort of back them, retweet them, and add on and pile on to the complaint is one thing. Developers don't want that, right? The business of the Activision doesn't want that either. But there is no line of communication in which somebody can say behind closed doors, "Hey, can you please fucking fix the footsteps now?" And then they're like, "Okay, listen, we're working on it. We have this upcoming development happening on Tuesday, and then the following Tuesday we have this new gun drop or buff that we have to do. But then on the third one, we'll get there." And then the player's gonna be like, "Fuck, it's gonna take 3 weeks. All right, fuck it. At least we know it's gonna take 3 weeks, right?" Yeah. Then you have 3 weeks of silence, not complaining about the game. You'll complain about the game, but not to the point to where you're going to the developer and say, "You mother, change this shit now," right? And then getting all the fans to sort of pile in. But at the third week, if that doesn't happen, then you follow up and you're like, "Hey, what the fuck happened?" It's like, "Dude, the people upstairs said that blah, 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 blah next week." Then the player's going to be like, "All right, cool. I'm going to give you another week, but I'm only going to give you another week." Another week happens, floodgates open. Everyone's going to become a meme. God damn it. Okay.
But funny if that exact thing is actually currently happening. And we spoke to Syndicate a couple of weeks ago about it because we were discussing State of the Game with him and Octane, and we were saying,
adapt.
Like that horrible word. And he was saying, he obviously went out before the game came out, and he went to one of the YouTuber kind of content kind of collect things they do. And he said, "Where is the minimap? Can we get the minimap?" And they said, "Oh, we'll look into it. We'll look into it." And this has been an ongoing theme now. And obviously the game's been out almost, it's coming up on 2 months, maybe a month and a half. And there's been another YouTuber content collection gone on, and apparently the developers have told them, "No, we're not changing the minimap ever." So I don't know where if that's an open line of communication, or because I was under the impression that they were going to test it. And it's obviously only in comp at the moment, but YouTubers when they're collecting don't really get that.
Yeah, I think comp players are less concerned about that, I suppose, to a point. I think there's a lot more important things. But you're right. I mean, the minimap not changing at all. A lot of fans, I think, what Syndicate said when he came on was that it was the biggest issue in the beta, and that's what they then concentrate a lot of their efforts on. Not that in my head that putting red dots on a minimap or putting a minimap in is a lot of work, really, but it's it detracted away from some of the other issues with the game. But I think, just to further point on what we were saying about it's not good for the scene when the players are complaining on Twitter, but we get it. It's one of those things though where it just makes it look, and you know, Namus is just pointing to this as well, is that it doesn't make it look very good when players and franchise teams are saying this. I feel like it hurts themselves.
On both sides, though.
It hurts themselves.
Yeah, but it's a two-side thing.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why get creative? Why, you know, just it's just gonna be tough for the next, I don't know, hopefully soon, man. We've been doing this for shit since 2006. You know, we've been playing Call of Duty since 2006, right? Me being a part of the franchise league is a dream come true to me, right? Like I always knew that it was gonna get here, and all I had to do was get there, right? I had to make sure that I got there. And now that we're here, you sort of get to the party and the music is not as good as you thought it was going to be, right? You're still having fun because you're with your friends. You're still having fun because you're with people that you want to spend time with. But it's still like the music just needs to be adjusted. They're playing your tune, but it's just not loud enough, or it's just way too loud. Helicopters. Why? Just give me the option to not fly in a helicopter, please, or a truck. Just let me spawn in like a Call of Duty noob, please.
Every time I'm playing a pub, it's like the VTOL is literally outside my window at this point. That shit is loud.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I have high hopes. I like the game. I know that I'm going to enjoy watching the game. You know, I didn't play a single pub all last year. I didn't play game battles all last year. All we played was
Blackout.
VR. Yeah, Blackout. Yeah. You know, before that, I didn't play the game either. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was playing Fortnite and Minecraft. Before that, I was playing Modern Warfare Remastered. I'm always going to play Call of Duty because that's the game that I like. Okay? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to watch football as much as I watch basketball because basketball is the game that I like. Right? So for us, it's sort of like we have to be able to eat our cake. We need to have it and eat it too because we're, you know, at the end of the day, we've been here for a long time. We're passionate. We're here. We built something for you guys to be interested enough to sort of allow us to create this franchise league. And now it's time to really blow this thing up, man. And I think we can if we just get, because it's not the developers, right? It's not the artists. It's not the artists that create this artwork, this interactive artwork. It's the fucking suits. You know, it's the suits that sort of give us that little bit of a headache.
And I think, you know, the thing is with this year as well is that it's like what you said when we were going to franchising. I remember having this conversation many times last year, sort of saying, well, it's franchising. It's bound to be like nearly perfect for Call of Duty competitive, but it's went a little bit in the opposite direction, and it's a weird one. It boggles my mind that it just seems to be there is a bit of there's a miscommunication not just from the players to the developers, but the developers in like Activision. For me, like it's like surely they're like, well, franchise league, and then there's other things that are coming in, and it's just like, well, why is this a thing in a franchise league? I don't know. I think this the thing is for me as well. That's one of my biggest frustrations is the fact that I feel like the game has super potential. Like I still like we were having a conversation before. Oh yeah, it's got so much potential. It has that new engine which will cause issues initially anyway. You know, we have to develop it to a point, but. You know, I still enjoy the game at its core, but I think everybody looks at it and says this shit could be really good, not just all right, you know, and have a couple of issues here. It could be really good, and I think that's where a lot of the frustration lies. Is that people on a whole do enjoy the game to a point. So, you know,
can we talk about the servers? Look, my thing is this. Okay, let me pay a premium. Let me make money for your shareholders, right? And your franchise owners, right? The players playing it, right? Let allow us to have options. If I don't want to play in a helicopter, give me that option. If I want to pay $20 a month extra to have a dedicated server for me to play game battles in peace, let me. You know, if I want to buy $10,000 worth of skins, let me. If I want to pay an extra $500 to use the M40A3 from Call of Duty 4, let me. You know, like it's those things where like you have the perfect platform to really make this thing the biggest thing out there. Literally the biggest esport in the world. It can happen with this game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. In
Fuck
fact,
out of the way.
I agree.
Let the creatives create.
I have a Minecraft server I don't even do anything with. The amount I would pay for a COD server is unbelievable. Just give me that 128 tick. All right, let's go to
we can talk about that at some point.
Let's go and let's go for questions in the chat now, because I don't want to take up too much of Hex's time, and obviously want to get this part of the show underway. So, where are some good questions from our community? Somebody asking, do the Huntsmen have a coach? And if so, when will we get an announcement?
Hold on. Let me go to the YouTube real quick.
Who's trying to put out videos out yet?
Yeah, soon, man. We're going soon. Very
okay.
Soon.
All right. Well, at least we know an announcement is coming.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Unfortunately, obviously, we couldn't make it
public yet.
I'm actually on the TP thing. We couldn't make it work, right?
Uh-huh.
And for the, like, obviously I'm sad that happened, but I'm also super happy about what this dude's about to become. You know, whether he does or doesn't, right? I think he's got it. You know, I think he's got it, and he's got an opportunity. It's teed up for him to swing away. Why not swing away? You know, like we've seen it happen over and over. Look at what happened to Jack. Jack was a commentator, right? That worked the extra hours when no pro was streaming. He's like, well, I'm gonna fucking stream, you know. And look at what happened. A beautiful thing happened to my boy Jackie. A beautiful, and I feel the same way about anybody in this industry, right? Like if one door closes, you literally have this other door opening that you can put your all into it. And at the end of the day, whether it succeeds or doesn't succeed, you had fun doing something. Was there stress involved? Absolutely, but it's there, right? It's this, like, YouTube is such a beautiful opportunity for everybody to just utilize. Twitch, it's such a Mixer. I mean, whoever else is out there, right? In no other time do you have this sort of opportunity to just grind to hopefully make some magic happen. And at the end of the day, if that magic doesn't happen, you still created something that's tangible that you can go back and look at. You know, I don't get mad. I mean, it bothers me a little bit when my podcasts don't get a lot of views, but I know that they will in the future. You know, it's gonna be you have this opportunity to freeze moments in time.
Yeah,
you get to play them anytime you want to.
Yeah,
and that should be worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, we're right there. We're there with you on the views on the podcast. Don't worry about that. Let's move on to another question then. So I think you've addressed this before, but I will ask it again. You and Nadeshot and 100 Thieves, were there ever any talks, any potential plans, even a casual discussion at a bar about you know, maybe helping him out or getting involved? Or
yeah, of course there was. Yeah, absolutely. And I would have loved to, but you know, it's he's got such a perfect thing going, and he's gonna, you know, hopefully one day just like fucking explode so big that he's gonna be, you know, super happy about it. And I'm gonna be his friend forever. He's gonna be my friend forever, no matter what, right? Like, we've gone through some shit, like all friends do. But at the end of the day, like, I want nothing but the best for him. And if I go in there and, you know, I'm gonna try to help in any way possible. I'm gonna throw in my input. I'm gonna say certain things. I'm gonna try to help my way. And I think that this is a journey that he himself has to take on his own and has to be proud of on his own, for something that he's building on his own. Obviously, he's got a team, but when I mean his own, like, it's his brain, right? He has to have full autonomy as to, you know, to say, this is where we're going. And if I step in there, I'm like, well, what if we, you know, I can't.
It's his baby.
I would never want to be like, what if we, you know, instead, I want to see what that happens, you know?
Yeah.
So I would have loved to, of course. That's my little bro, man. You know, it's of course I would have loved to. I don't know. I had a lot of interesting opportunities to work with people that I you know, care about and would love to work with. But you know,
Fair enough. I think that's a problem. It's interesting. Like I said, one of these days we'll have to have another one and discuss some of those opportunities that could have come up, because you could have basically, as far as I'm concerned, done anything you wanted to. You had literally a golden ticket and you could have walked into any esport franchise or anything. But let's move on to the questions here, because there is quite a few coming in, obviously. Yeah. Here's a hot topic in the community now, and I kind of want to get your thing on it, but I understand if you can't talk about this. Insight on the cost of tickets. People are saying the cost of tickets at the moment for this year for 5 matches is high compared to a full weekend previous experience. I think they're trying to kind of justify the experience difference and in price.
It's the fucking ticket people. It's not the orgs or Activision, okay, or the venues for that matter. It's the literal ticket deliverers. They're like, we're gonna put a $85 fee on this, so either you, the organization, eats it or they eat it, but I'm getting paid, and that sucks, because and we're not out yet with our costs of the tickets, or when we're going live with the tickets, but we're trying our very best at trying to figure out how to make it, no matter how expensive it's going to be worth it, and no matter how cheap it is, it's going to be worth it. So we're trying to get creative as to how we can deliver more value for what, for whatever tier people are going to be paying for. But yeah, I mean, it's not. I'm telling you, it's not. It's when I saw those tickets from other people, I'm like, it sucks, because people were like, "F you, brand," or "F you, franchise X," and it wasn't them, and it wasn't the league. It's the it's just let people in between.
I mean, that's fair enough. Like I said, it's. I was always understanding there's obviously layers to this, right? It's business. There's all this sort of stuff going on. Franchises are just spinning up. They've got to get these massive venues ready to go for the season. There's always going to be teething issues, and it may not always be the same as we go down the line and people figure things out. But franchising has spun up, in my opinion, in a very short space of time.
Yeah,
and you can see some of the cracks, and they'll be fixed as time goes on, as people we get used to it. It becomes more of a routine, and then people can work on the polish. But let's move on then. Hex, how do you feel about Crash, Vacant, and Shipment coming back?
Look, I don't like to talk about myself that much. I don't like to brag, but I could go path to pro. Look, if Nameless and Pac-Man went pro at some point, I could certainly fucking go pro. Didn't you guys play at some point?
Yeah, not very well.
Anyway, I'm super excited. I'm super excited about it. Crash, love Crash. Vacant. I wish it would have been Strike or Backlot.
I liked Vacant on Modern Warfare.
I like it too, but I don't like it more than I like. Look,
Strike,
Crash and Strike.
Yeah,
even then Backlot and I don't know. Look, you know what's crazy? If the fact that they didn't throw Overgrown into the ground war is so annoying. That would have been such a good throwback to at least as part of like the other thing. The way they did Invasion. What map is that? The bridge?
Euphrates Bridge.
Yeah. But then next to it, Invasion, right? If they would have done that like Overgrown with like another ground war map, I haven't played because I don't fucking play pubs. It would, and now it's not that I don't like pubs. It's just that I like not being annoyed, and I like not being frustrated while doing something that I like to do. So I stick to playing a rule-based game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I get that. By the way, you can tell how much God 4 and Modern Warfare Remastered GBs and you've played just by how you rank the maps. That's how I know Tunn's got it wrong there. You are right about Crash and Strike.
Wait. I said I liked Vacant. I didn't say they were better than Crash or Strike.
You don't put Vacant above Strike or Backlot.
I was good at Vacant.
If you've played any MWR GBs,
done.
No, I'm not having it. If you've played MWRGBs, you know why you don't put Vacant above those two maps.
I didn't put them above them. I said I liked it.
Well, you've upset me. You've ruined the podcast.
I didn't want to say it.
I like Vacant, but I think
it's a good map. You don't put it above Strike.
I fucking didn't. But I think one thing as well is that a lot of the community, a lot of the pros sort of shat on my parade a little bit. Like yesterday, I was like, "Oh, Crash and Bacon, fuck yeah!" And then they were like, "Well, it's never going to work for 5v5," and I was like, "Oh, come on, just let me have a little bit of fun with it, please." Well, I think some of them can. I think it's hard to say without playing them. I think it's going to be interesting to see. I don't this year as well, especially. There's no way they won't put DLC in the game, and potentially put DLC in competitive anyway because of it is free. So I think we got this potential for it.
What's tough about that is like I don't know who to get a hold of over at Game Battles and tell them that if they don't put Crash and Bacon or whatever old GB maps into the rotation immediately day of the drop, I'm literally throwing some shit out the window.
Imagine trying to get somebody off top 3 story when he's got a trophy system though. Gonna be rough.
Again, trophy systems are on Game Battle, so that's not an issue for me.
Are they actually not? It does depend what.
I only play CDL.
Yeah, CDL. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to another one here. And there's a few all along on the same kind of topic here, but somebody is asking, so I'll change to this one. When can people expect a Huntsman podcast?
I'm not ready to talk about that.
No, that's fair enough. I
know
that
you guys can expect an energy podcast between Andy and I and guests very soon. As soon as so Andy has a son. His name is Henry. Super cool dude. Met him, and he's got a gaming setup downstairs in his basement. But Andy didn't really give him the setup. So when I told Andy, I'm like, listen, I'll do a podcast. We're gonna do a podcast, you and I, but I'm not gonna do it unless you get top of the line camera, top of the line microphone, and this, that, and the other. And then I sent him a list, and it's like mic stand, and like the whole list. And at the end of it, I'm like, tell Henry I said welcome because I just hooked his ass up. So yeah,
fair enough. I know. We're trying to launch into our series now for the future for going on during the season of team podcasts. So hopefully at some point.
What are you guys doing?
We are trying to get at least one of every team, a couple of players from each team to come on and talk about the team during the year. And we're starting to try to set them up.
Yeah, sure, fine. I'll get a Scump and Formal if you guys want. It doesn't matter. This is what are you guys doing in the upcoming season?
What's good question? Doing? Good question. Nobody knows.
No idea.
Nobody knows.
So there's no line of communications open with you guys either.
Nope. We have no idea what's going on.
I'm gonna make an inquiry via email. Be like, what's the talent look like this year?
Okay. Yeah. If you can find out, that'll be very much appreciated.
That would be great.
What's going on? Let's move on here. The last few questions, because I don't want to hold you for too much.
Take your time. We're not playing anytime soon.
Okay.
Until I get a text that says we have a match, I'm not getting off.
No problem. Somebody asked one word to describe each Chicago Huntsman member.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I'm guessing that's the players as it runs down.
Sure.
But instead, I kind of want to ask you. I want to change that because I think it's kind of a cop out. I want to ask you what you think of your current players and their personalities and how well they've been developing as a team. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you kind of get to see the stuff behind it, right? The things that are off stream, the practice, the conversations, the things that are very, very important. Yeah. Going into the next year. How are you kind of seeing this team gel and get back together? Obviously, Scum and Formal, the return of T2P.
Yeah.
How has it been going behind the scenes?
Look, I mean, obviously, without trying not to look at this situation through rose-colored glasses. I don't know what Courage always says. Something
Tinted.
Like that. Yeah, whatever. Tinted. Yeah, it's been good. Believe it. Like, I'm gonna look at this thread of players. One, I've never seen anything this active, right? But the last, let's say this, all right, last night or this morning at around 4 a.m., there is a text from Scumpy that says, "It too sucked. Laughing my ass off. What a disgrace to the franchise." And then a whole conversation happens before that. So, like, so far, like the and I hate to say vibes because that's such a millennial thing to say, but it's good. It's really, really good. The interaction between everybody, like, it's fun to watch Scump and Formal be this sort of sidekick like duo, right? Where Formal being the the cool older brother, and Seth being the guy with a mouthful of fucking pretzels, annoying the older brother. So far, like the relationship's super cool. Everybody else in there is super awesome. Alec, I've always wanted to. I always wanted RC to play for me from the beginning. He's
So
just
good.
such a fucking good person, right? Get out of the way. But he's nasty at the game. Envoy, super young, talented dude. Gunless. I mean, can we? Do we have to say how good he is? I mean, everybody knows the potential on that guy. So I'm happy to find out and get to know these three dudes better, right? I want to be able to help, Dylan Envoy become bigger and better than he is now. Obviously, I won't be able to help him in game unless it's S&D, which I'm nasty at. But aside from that, like with his brand and everybody's brand, like I want to be able to help them do that. And it's not just a Huntsman thing. It's like an org wide thing. I want to help where I can with Symphony, with Sinatra, with Savage, with any of the players, right? I want to be able to be a source for them to ask, certain questions. I've seen things firsthand that can help them, become big. So, I'm excited. I'm excited for the season. I'm excited for my team. Aside from all the other stuff that happened, right? I am obviously sad that I didn't get to continue to team with Crim6, Karma, the kids. But things happen. We got to move, and they had to move on, and here we are.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, right? Once a door closes, another door opens. It doesn't mean it won't always be that way. Maybe something happens, and you get to work with those players and personalities again. Yeah. Here's another question. And a lot of this is very much about this city stuff, right? People are asking about the regionality of the franchise and how it's going on here. Somebody asked, how much will the actual cities play a role in the teams, with players moving there and team houses, or is it going to be kind of like a player can live roughly anywhere, but then they'll just travel in for the stadium stuff? Or do you think it's one way now and it will transition in the future?
Yeah, it'll definitely transition. I mean, we don't have them, and we home teams. We have 2 home stands. It's makes no sense for people who bought houses here or anywhere else to whatever. If I could have it my way, every team would send all of their players here, all of them. And have them operate out of one place. And I say here because I'm already here, but I'm also saying here because it's better for them from a finance standpoint, right? Texas is like the perfect place for content creators to make the full potential of their living, if they have educated people around them to make those financial decisions for them. That and fiber. And it's not a bad place. Obviously, I like Frisco, Plano area because I'm a little bit older and I'm done with all the partying and stuff. But there are super dope places that do that people do go out and party at, and I think the Dallas area sort of does that. And it would suck obviously because it's owned by Envy and that, and obviously you want them to take full advantage of what is deservedly theirs. But it would be cool to have everybody under one place, and then that. But 2 to 3 years, I think that the city thing will become a little bit more, of a staple need to happen sort of thing.
Yeah.
On the same vein as that, Hex, people are asking about the Huntsman's plans for a facility. Because there's been a few franchises that have already kind of stuck their cards on the table and said, "Hey, look at this big thing we're building." Is the Huntsman got any particular plans going forward, or is there something that you're going to look at when maybe the franchise league becomes a little bit more established? Because obviously, it's not a small thing to build a facility like that tailor-made for esports.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, it all boils down as to how what the use of it is, and if you're gonna build a facility for. Sorry, hold on. My game just turned on. Can you guys talk?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
I can't hear you guys.
Oh,
hold on. Talk.
Hello, Hex. Can you hear us?
Okay, now I can. Sorry. The game turned on, and I was like, "Jesus, time!" Something came over me, and I'm like, "Oh shit, it's time to kill people." Let's get in there. Gun runner, boom, pop daddy, go through the middle, flank, get top green, bottom green, jump up. 4-piece, easy. Anyway, if you're building something, do we have any plans? We have a million plans. a million plans. But again, 2 homesteads a year for the time being is I don't know if it justifies it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Like I said, I think a lot of people are doing things differently this year until the franchise league becomes more established and they kind of see where everything's kind of laying. Because there's still a few questions out there, and obviously that's just from our side. I'm sure there's even more questions from the franchise side saying, how's X, Y, and Z do, and things people never even thought of launching into this. Because even the Overwatch model, which a lot of this is based off, is still being tweaked. It's still people are still figuring things out with it as well. Let's have a look at the next question. Somebody asked, I'm going to say it's DJ Pretface, which is a great name. What is Hex looking forward to the most about this next season? And what's his biggest doubt about the new setting?
Okay, let's start with the first one. I'm looking forward to traveling. I'm looking forward to visiting London. We sort of, with a eSports Industry Awards being here in Texas, I sort of don't get to visit the motherland. I'm 6% English. I don't know if you guys know that, but or 6% from Great Britain. Okay, from the island. All right. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I get to go and see all my friends there. All the crowd, the literal best crowd out there. Okay, can you imagine? Huntsman. Oh, it's gonna be nasty.
Wait,
I do.
You guys how often are you playing there? I think.
Once.
Once.
Yeah, we're there. I don't know the exact dates.
Huntsman versus Ravens is going to be a crazy game. Like, it's going to be ridiculous. The home London fans and obviously the old OpTic, now the kind of the Huntsman fans are very much popular in the UK. So it's always been one of the ones at UK events. There's been a lot of recognition there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think there's going to be some crazy games.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, it should be good. It should be very good. I will say one thing, Hex, though. If you could make sure this new franchise, this new brand, has more than one chant, I will be very, very happy. Okay? There's been years of the same chant at events over and over again.
If it's "Let's Go Huntsman," I will lose my shit.
I'll take whatever they want to do. They can do. They can do no wrong in my eyes. So now, it's a cultural thing, right? It is. You go to France, you have the same sort of. It's a European thing. If you go to Mexico, like even there's like a different sort of vibe to the crowds. So yeah, I mean, hopefully the hype squad's coming up with something super dope. I don't know. I think it's gonna be dope though. I'm looking forward to see how that develops and how what that turns into as the league progresses. But I'm psyched, man. Oh, I can just hear a faint like, and then the boys come out and it's like, just fucking battle crayons win.
I suppose that's the other benefit, right, of franchising, is that you're genuinely going to have a home crowd, like a location where when your team goes there.
What do you mean? We've always had a home crowd.
Well, I know you have. I know you have. It's a fresh experience for many of these other franchises, X, all right? A lot of the time they don't get that. Maybe in London, the UK teams would have a home crowd, but everywhere else would have your crowd. But obviously, it is a brand new experience where it is going to be, each team gets that kind of that experience of, we're going to have some home crowd in it as well. I'll end it on this next question because I think this one is less about Call of Duty and more about the business side of essentially what you do, merchandising, and that side of it. I thought this was a really good question. That's why I left it to the last. Can you explain the current trend in doing these boutique drops instead of a steady stream of available merchandise?
Yep.
Why is it become such a limited edition, small drops? You can get it for a limited time. Why is that seems like the next wave?
It's marketing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the current state of all pop culture, right? It's just what is there. The mistake that a lot of people are doing is a mistake that I'm personally not going to do. Now, on the Huntsman merch, we as an organization can only create merch up until December 31st. After that, the league takes over, and then they're the ones that create everything. So we're sort of in this weird interim where we have to do as much as we can to be able to offer up as many drops as we can. None of the stuff that we're making now until the the end of the 31st is ever going to be able to be reprinted. I mean, I'll be able to print whatever. I have my own apparel company. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So up until December 31st is the last time that we're going to be able to do that. So everything that we're creating, unfortunately, will be sort of limited editions. What we're doing differently though at Energy is something that I think is the right way of doing things, which is have an evergreen store where you can get the regular Energy t-shirt, right? An evergreen store which is always there. You can always get that one t-shirt because that one t-shirt represents your brand. And every so often you drop a boutique style capsule where you put in a certain drop, right? But that doesn't take away from the fact that you can always get it. You lose your favorite Energy hat, you're gonna go be able to get that same Energy hat. But if you lose that one hat, then you're never gonna be able to get that. And that offers its own sort of experience for the consumer as it stands. But then on top of that, and this is a huge shout out to the Guggen squad. This incredible group of fishermen YouTubers that create like incredible. They have a t-shirt of the month club, which is super genius in my opinion because of what that sort of has a gateway to. So without going into extreme details, that we're gonna do all three, and we're gonna do all three the right way. Right now we're sort of in this like rushy period where we have to do as much as we can from a Huntsman perspective, and then once everything just settles down and somebody else has to take over that line, then we can concentrate on solely one brand to do, and what we think is the right thing to do, and we will.
Yeah, I think that it comes from like a streetwear culture as well, isn't it? It's like these typical like brands like your Supremes, etc. Like they all just do these like small quantities, and it's more of like I'm somebody who's like buys into those sort of things, and it's like you only buy something. Look at Brice's face. You only buy like for some people, it's like the fact that not everybody can get it. It's one of the things that attracts you to it as well. Yeah. You don't want to just be walking in there into Chicago, say the first one, and everyone wearing the same thing would be cool. But if you have something that not everybody else has,
the founder's hoodie.
100%. It just makes sense.
The founder's hoodie was specifically that, right? It was specifically I'm like, all right, pick the most expensive, hoodie that's made. I don't, material, just the most high quality one. That's what we're gonna print on. And we're only going to drop that for, whatever time, because I wanted to sort of give the super, super hardcore fans the opportunity to get that. And I made a different color than what the regular ones are going to be, because what would be the point of me making something green that was going to do that? So, the fact that the designer came up with the rising sun, I thought it was super symbolic. And the fact that you're going to be out there wearing a hoodie that one is super bright yellow and orange and red, which is complete different colorway than what our natural colorway is sort of going to differentiate you from everybody else who may not necessarily have gotten the chance to do that. And we'll do that. I mean, we're doing that with the Black Friday drop that we're doing this. We're creating these very high quality sort of pullover windbreakers that are super, super high quality material. And again, those are going to be more limited than the ones that we drop, because that is super hard to get and it takes like longer to print, and it's just a longer process. But we're going to try to do as much as we can with the drops, but there's always going to be that evergreen store where you can get what you want. So again, it's
yeah, fair enough. I think that's an interesting kind of take on it. Like, obviously, I'm not the same as Tunn, and like, Tunn's made me go when we were in LA to some back alley, sneaker store.
When we were champs, I took him to the Supreme store in LA. Like that.
Yeah. Bearing in mind, this wasn't recent. This was 5 years ago.
This is a while ago. But I mean, like, it speaks about, like, I think people are more into, like, and this is maybe me going down the clothes route a little bit, but people are more into like quality now than people don't mind the fruit on the loom standard. But the quality is there. I mean, this is me speaking from someone who I've never bought esports merch. I like to wear my own thing. I don't want to see even partial. But even I was like, when you were dropped it, I was like, holy shit, let's have a look at that. And then I seen the import tax, and I was
So that's super, super difficult for somebody like me.
I know.
Because I'm like, why is it so goddamn expensive? why DHL, why USPS, why? And people are like, yo, your rates are fucking wild, man. Like, and I'm like, my rates?
Oh yeah,
I'm not, I'm not personally.
This is just customs. Like, this is how it happens.
Yeah. So I mean, it's for us to solve. We need to have, we didn't know that we were gonna have to be in charge for 2 months of our own apparel, right? And when you have that opportunity, you from a business perspective, you have to make all the right choices to make sure that you capitalize on the opportunity to make money where you're not going to be able to make as much, in the future. Mm-hmm. So we did. I mean, had we had the tiniest little bit of warning, and again, it's not their fault, and it's no one's fault. It's just a situation that we were in.
It's just one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just one of those things. We would have prepared for that. We would have prepared to have, everything readily available and in what do you call it? In overseas, right? Because it's for our fans, it's wild, right? We have North America being number 1, London number 2, France number 3. I think it's tied with Australia, or I think Australia beats it. But like we would have loved to have like all my my brothers from down under get all the merch that they needed, but it's fucking ludicrous, right? And it's just one of those situations that couldn't be avoided. Obviously, I don't ever want somebody to pay double what something costs, unless you want to, right? I've bought a lot of stuff that cost way more than it should have, but it's that supreme effect in some occasions.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'll tell you something. If me and Tunn, don't have a job in the CDO next year, we'll be a distribution center in London. I've got a garage. I can take a crate in. We'll figure it out.
If me and Brice are on the bread line next year, I'm sure we'll
I'll get a market store. I'll sell Chicago Huntsman stuff off of there.
So all right. Market.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Hex, for coming on. We do appreciate taking up your time for this, and appreciate the fact when I saw on your Instagram that you kind of highlighted our episodes. I go, oh, wow, Hex actually watches us. So that's fantastic.
I watch everything. It's not my fault. It's just the way that I'm built. I need to know what's happening everywhere all at once. I'm a weirdo. I won't interact most of the time because I don't want to sort of affect the way that something's done, right? Like if because it changes, right? Like it changes people's attitude. Like if you told me right now that Joe Rogan was watching, I don't know how I would act. You know
I'd
what I'm
lose
saying?
my shit.
That's what I'm saying. and as an entertainer, you have to take care of that entertains you, and that thing entertains you because you are not a part of it. And then the second that you interact with it, now you're a part of it. So this next episode, I'm not going to watch it. Obviously, I mean, I'll tweet it out and stuff, but I'm not going to watch it. I already know what I said. I already know what you said. So now I'm down 1 hour of content that particular week. And that, whether it's me editing something or me, doing something, like it takes away from that sort of entertainment.
That's fair enough. Okay, any kind of last thing you want to say to the people listening or watching on any of our VODs, Hex? This is the last part of kind of a shout out segment.
Yeah, go follow our Twitter account at Energy GG. I gotta fix that. Anyway, and also at Huntsman. So, and a shock if you feel jumpy and frisky. Thank you so much.
Fair enough. Tunn?
Nothing in particular from me. We're approaching the 50th episode, as said, which we will be figuring something out for. Yeah, I know. Who would have thought, Brice? Yeah. But
and may I say, please keep it up. Like
we're going to.
Yeah.
As long as somebody doesn't steal Brice from me, but nobody wants to just listen to me. But no, we will keep it up, and we're gonna hit number 50 soon. We're gonna try and have something cool planned for that anyway. And more other cool stuff coming. But yes, as I said, it's on the YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, please do subscribe. Make sure you follow all the Spotify, Apple accounts, etc. as well if you are listening on there. And if you do need to follow those links or find those links if you came in late, then of course it will be on the EGL Twitter.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's been another episode of Spitfire. If you are watching on the VODs, thanks for making it to the end, and leave a comment on the YouTube. Loads of comments last week. I do appreciate. I do read every single one related to it and everything on Twitter and in our Discord. You can of course join the Spitfire Discord, where we do speak to the community before to kind of see what they want to see. Again, thank you so much to Hex for coming on. We do appreciate it very, very much. And that's been all for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.